Okay. Man, there's always something. Let's just do the show anyway, but let me check just to be sure that the audio can be heard. It's not going to let me listen. It's there we go. All right, we're good to go. Sorry about that. Anyway, all right, what I'll do is do the review of the show, and then I'll switch, and I'm having technical problems with the second camera to be able to show the drawing board, but I think I figured that out. But just to be sure, I'll take a little break. I've got a little video that I'll play in between. I'll set that up, come back, and do some drawings. Doing this a lot later than I intended, so there probably will not be a Wednesday comics show. So sorry, but that just means there'll be a Thursday comics show. So won't that be nice? I think so. Yes. It's just me talking about some comic books. Yeah. So anyway, Alien Earth, which has been interesting. It's had a lot of really cool things about it. The aesthetics were top notch. They got some elements right. Pretty cool here and there. And, but there were some stumbles and flaws. And ultimately, I said, well, you got to reserve judgment for the series in its entirety for this season. It is obvious that they intend for there to be a second season, which most shows do that. Most shows, hey, let's hope we can get a whole bunch of seasons out of this premise from this movie franchise. All right, fair enough. But with a lot that was teased and the mysteries and whatnot going on in this show, I just thought, well, you really can't end on a cliffhanger here. I think that would be a mistake. You leave possibilities for it to continue, and sure, that'll be great. And there's all kinds of things they could do. They've introduced new creatures and stuff like that. But instead, no, they decided to leave things still mysterious here and there, and then end the show. I think that's a terrible mistake. And at this point, it appears the stupid outweighs the good. So, the island's in trouble. Everything's falling apart. And a-hole boss Boy Cavalier is losing control. And Wendy is going to be in charge, and that's how it ends. Yes, I will be spoiling. So at the beginning, they're all locked up and everything, and they're trying to figure out what's going on and all this sort of stuff. And then, well, that falls apart. More monsters get loose. We finally see the mysterious plant creature do something. It kills one of the soldiers. That's it. So I wasn't all that impressed with that one. Octopus, well, has a moment here and there, and you think, oh, that's going to go somewhere. And, well, they're leaving that for later as well. So that one's not really resolved. So nothing really is. What the hell was Kersh's plot? He obviously had one. He allowed things to happen while he's looking down upon humanity and everything. And yet you're just as stupid as everybody else because you allowed certain things to happen to where you're completely left open to what happens to the whole base and everything. So, well, the good news is none of the real major characters are dead. They lived for the next season. Well, there was one of the characters who died, but even he will still be around. I'll leave that mysterious. So, um, one of the main things here is about, well, Wendy's special. All right. She was the first of the hybrids and all that. And then Boy Cavalier has his Peter Pan thing going on and all that. And she's as first and whatnot. You think, okay, that's why she's special. No, she has special abilities. And we see that demonstrated all the time. And she's almost immediately, and it's not explained whatsoever, she's able to communicate with the xenomorph. She doesn't communicate with the other creatures, but she communicates with that one because, well, it is the alien. There's other aliens now, but it's the alien, even though it's kind of a guest star in its own show. But nevertheless, she does this. There's no explanation for it. None. The other incredible ability that she has is she's able to control all computers. Initially, she would just touch the screen and she'd be in this sort of thing. Here, she's in prison, but she's able to do it from a distance. So she's controlling the screen and she's just moving it this way, locking doors, opening doors, shutting down computers, all that sort of stuff. Trapping soldiers in an elevator, on and on and on. And how does she do that? The other kids can't do that. The other kids, they have super strength. They're faster than human beings. They're far, superior to them in a lot of ways, all that stuff. And they're even more superior to the androids and, of course, the cyborg and all that. And apparently more superior than the xenomorph, so long as they have, the paper cutter thing and they can slice one in half like Wendy did. But then again, that's Wendy. She's the alpha of the team. But she has these other abilities and there's no explanation for it. Even Boy Cavaliers. And that's that, So, gee, that's for next season. Odds are they don't know either. They haven't really thought it through. They just tease stuff, and that's, oh God, don't do that. The setup mystery and stuff, and to at least indicate that yes, we will explore that further, and because you want this to be a much expanded show. I don't think that was because they really didn't. They show the characters reacting to she has this ability, but they don't do anything about it. And then she utilizes that, surprise, surprise, to take over the whole facility. And okay, but they should have looked into it and said, oh, this could be because of this or that. And, we didn't, we eliminated that in the others for some reason or what have you. They'll probably get to that in the next season, provided they get one. I'm guessing they will. I don't know what the numbers are on Alien Earth, but they've greenlit worse stuff. So they'll probably get another season and they'll expand on this. But to just throw it in there, wow, she's special. If they just leave it that she's special for no reason, that makes no sense whatsoever. Now, this is a creature none of them have any experience with. Sure, Boy Cavalier had sabotaged the Maginot. So he had his paid man in there, his traitor that he paid to sabotage the mission so that he could get what Weyland-Yutani has. And so I suppose perhaps he was able to steal some of their information and that he had some interest or knowledge of the xenomorph because they've encountered this before. If you go by, well, I guess Prometheus or something, I don't know, because even that I don't know that they would know about the xenomorph at that point. They knew about the engineers and everything. So, but anyway, they've since encountered a xenomorph. So some way, somehow he gets that. Did that? I don't know, because Wendy is made out of that intelligent AI intelligence at the Prodigy Island, that she gleaned that knowledge, and somewhere in her AI subconscious, she has the ability to communicate with the creature. And now, next season, they might show, some of the other hybrids will start to develop this as well. She was the first. It took a while before. We don't know the amount of time in between, but the other kids come in and they get their hybrid bodies as well. But still, her superpowers that are beyond the superpowers that the others have to be explained. And I don't see why not. Because it's just this ability she has. And again, you got to come up with reasons why they don't deal with it. You have to chalk it up to Boy Cavalier being fascinated with it and just, I want to see where this goes. Because he's a genius on one side, but an idiot elsewhere. And that's part of his arrogance, his narcissism, and the guy's nuts. So you can chalk it up to that. The stupidity of the hybrids is their kids. So you can get away with that. But too much stupidity is too much stupidity here and there. So it's like Kirsch is presented as, this brilliant thinker and whatnot and all that. And he's up to something. He's up to something. His back's broken. And it's, what the hell? Yeah, I don't know. What was his plot? You don't see it. So, stupid. Now, season 2 will fix that. I don't know. I guess he just underestimated the cyborg, and that's how he ends up where he does. But I don't see how this was a win for him to allow all this destruction to happen to his boss's compound. Unless, of course, he had some motive for why he wanted to do that. And what's the win? And, well, you don't get that. So some of the elements, do work, especially like I said, the failures and stuff can be explained away by some of them. Itopus is interesting and all that. There's something of a reveal about who there's yet another synthetic there. They reveal that, and you kind of see it coming anyway. But okay. But surprise, surprise, Wendy can control those too, because she's God when it becomes to technology. It doesn't explain how she's able to communicate with the xenomorph unless they go into, the engineers utilize biology the way we utilize, computers and, that sort of technology. Theirs is, biometric combined or whatnot. And so the xenomorphs are basically just their robots or something. Still just animals, and but whatever. That's what they do, and then you just have the kids take over, and Wendy is a full-on villain at this point, because sure, Boy Cavalier's got it coming, few others, I understand that, but the rest of the crew and stuff, she just murders, doesn't care, and has her fascination with her pet xenomorph. And there's just no redemption anymore. Some of the other kids are still rather innocent and don't quite understand what's happening, but they'll do what Wendy says because, she's big sister and all that. So that's what they do. So they capture Boy Cavalier and they throw him in the cell. They capture everybody else. They capture, the lady scientist dressing up like Rhoda for some reason in this episode. They throw her in there, and then Wendy says, well, now we're going to take over. And then this makes Boy Cavalier, who apparently had a haircut in between scenes. They really messed up there. And he's giggling at the prospect. I guess he thinks he can manipulate this to his advantage or whatever. Or he sees this the fruition of his work, perhaps. And then they play another damn rock song, and that's the end of the show, right? To be continued. So no explanation for quite a bit. So it didn't achieve this. I said, hey, this could possibly be the most successful follow-up to the first two classic films. It didn't do that. Another season can rectify this and fix it. But I don't know. After this performance, as far as season one goes, the stupid outweighed the good. And that's a problem. Basically, all you have is Itopus. The other creatures are just thrown in for decoration. I don't know that much else will be done with those. But Itopus, you could have just had it set up, Itopus survives and nobody knows this, and the island is atomized. Everyone's dead. Okay, maybe Wendy survives somewhere, that kind of thing. And then the next season is, there's no xenomorphs anymore, but, this other creature who's an alien. So you can still call it Alien Earth. And that's on the way. Or you could expand on eventually getting to where Itopus is able to communicate more clearly. And this is the sort of thing they may do. I'm almost certain. I mean, otherwise they're really stupid. And perhaps there is more of this natural, enemy relationship between Itopus and Xenomorph and that sort of thing. But ultimately they teased a bunch of stuff and resolved nothing. Utani is on the way. The fleet or the squadron, whatever, has arrived. So that's afoot while they're all trapped in the dungeon with the hybrids taking over. And where does that go? But ultimately, for the continuity, of course, none of the xenomorphs can survive this story. I don't care if they get several seasons or what have you. Then the continuity doesn't work anymore. And they could have ended that already and gone off into their other stuff. And the series could have been about different eras and stuff like that. You take Holly's Fargo approach, but it just didn't deliver. It's got a lot of cool stuff. They spent a lot of money on this, but it's just to be continued. Not like this. And especially since you didn't resolve jack squat. So I've been through a lot, especially bad robot creations and whatnot. That's tease. No payoff. You needed to resolve at least something. Didn't do any. So that's it. That's Alien Earth season 1. The final episode, The Real Monsters. Did you catch who the real monsters are? Well, there's the hybrids. They're getting pretty monstrous. But of course, the real monster is man. Yes. So, I guess tune in next time if you still want to support Disney at this point. And we'll see how that goes. But narratively speaking, ultimately, they didn't deliver to basically the metric, does the good outweigh the stupid? No. Season 2 could change all that. But, depending on the numbers, which I do not know, and all that, I would, I would say, well, it costs a lot of money. It's not that great. You pass on it. But they're gambling on the Alien franchise becoming this big thing. Alien Romulus was successful, so they're doing another one of those. You got Predator Badlands. They'll cross them over. And now you've got something to replace Marvel, which is all but dead now. So, okay, I understand that. So they'll probably give it another shot, and its numbers may be good. It gets notice and whatnot, but it's still better than Romulus was, so okay. But right now, the stupid outweighs the good. And I didn't want it to be that way. but it is. So there we go. Alien Earth. Bird64 says, "Hey, Doug, the final boss, Kid Cavalier." Now he calls himself Boy Cavalier, but Kid Cavalier sounds like a comic book character. The boss spoiler. Yeah, I spoiled some things. Susan Dolan, hey guys, hail Doug, hi Susan. A. Thompson, there will be another 4 seasons of this. It better not be like this one. They got to be better than that. That wasn't the end of the show. Yeah, I know. But it needed to do better than that. So, I don't know. A. Thompson, that plant got to eat. Yeah. A. Thompson, Utani sent in an army to collect and take that island. The next season is filming at that location. I gathered. Yeah. A. Thompson, nothing changes for next season. The same sets and locations. Yeah, they're still going to be fighting over the island. Utani will show up. They're going to get slaughtered by xenomorphs and hybrids and all that sort of stuff. Eventually, Itopus is probably going to end up in Boy Cavalier's head. Weirdly enough, Boy Cavalier probably will want it to. I don't know if they got to, like, his brain is so advanced that they'll compete for control, and that guy won't outright die, you know. But anyway, A. Thompson, I was disappointed they broke that Vanderbilt's back. I kind of like that character. Yeah, but the whole plot about him is like, boy, they're going to have to do some work to explain what he was up to, because he's to blame for a lot of what happened. I mean, what's his angle? It's just, well, Cyborg got the better of him. He was about to really clinch the deal. I don't see it. A. Thompson, Wendy released that xenomorph and killed dozens of people. So Wendy is kind of a monster. Not kind of. She is. And of course, you know, I will give it that. She basically says out loud, which I was always saying, they're not the kids. They're copies of the kids. Those kids are dead. And that's going to do a number on them too. So now they're going to, you know, they're all going to become monsters in the end. A. Thompson, it doesn't cost a lot of money here. They made it cheap for them to film stuff here with grants and stuff. Yeah, I'm sure, but still, it needs to make money. Susan Nolan, can anything from Disney be anything but stupid? Of late. Now, this one technically is a company they bought. You know, if they leave it alone, good Lord, if they have even more influence over it for next season, then abandon all hope. A. Thompson, boy had kind of a dark story there. He built a synth to kill his dad and become his new dad. That was dark. Well, yes. But he said his dad was a drunk who probably beat him and stuff. So he built himself a daddy Warbucks, and well, the rest is history. A. Thompson, if they were copies, why did the originals die when they moved them into those? But they didn't move them into those bodies, Thompson. Don't you understand? They were able to basically record their brainwaves and collect their thoughts and memories. So they copied that and printed it onto the android. The child dies. They have a copy of their final thoughts up to that moment. All their memories and thoughts and everything is collected into those androids. So that's a copy of them, but it's not them. That child went to sleep and never woke up. And now they're in that graveyard. So it's really a $1 trillion or multi-trillion dollar con that Boy Cavalier is pulling on the world, because he's going to show off these hybrids. That was his original plan until he found out about the aliens and stuff, and sell this to people that now you can live forever. Not only forever, but better than before in super-powered bodies. So that's what he would sell. And, you know, family members and stuff. Yeah, yeah, that's my sister and that buddy, or it's my brother and that, but yeah, they would believe it because they have all the memory. They know things. They know stories only you and they would know. So that kind of thing. And so it would work. But it is not them. Of course, they're going to have to abandon the whole thing because, well, look what happened on Neverland Island. So, Prodigy will not survive this story. But I just don't see the reason to stretch it out like the way they did. I think that was foolish. Did you get that Easter egg last time when one of the synths got killed? He says, there goes $6 billion, $6 billion kids. Yeah. They're bionic. See, the first, well, he would have been a cyborg, was Steve Austin, you know. And so all these you see, it's all connected. All these years later, they're doing all this other stuff. Yeah. So they were able to make Steve Austin's arm look like a real arm. But Morrow, yeah. Whatever. I guess, you know, they went cheap over years. Guys, they just needed him to be serious or emotional. That's what, and he kind of, the mission didn't work out exactly as he had hoped. But, you know, tomorrow's another season, I guess, and that's where they'll go with that. So you'll just have to wait for all your questions to be answered in the next season, provided they thought it through. Say, I don't know. Let's just tease some more and say season 3, boy, that's when things really, really kick off. Tom says, video weird. What, me? I don't know what to tell you. So that's that for Alien Earth. So I'm going to switch to the other camera. And it's going to be so awesome. And whilst I'm doing that, I will play this break segment because I'm not quite sure the damn thing. Jeez. Well, it'll work. So anyway, I'll be back after that. So do enjoy.
This is your ass. This is your ass in prison. Any questions? This has been a public service announcement reminding you that if you do the crime, you will do the time. Hard time.
Who killed Buddy the rabbit?
So we've got a dead rabbit. And as the gravedigger's burying it, he notices it's got a broken neck. How'd that happen? One word. Homicide.
Why would anyone kill Buddy?
Seems this Buddy the rabbit lived with quite a few people in that house there. First of all, you got Rob Saul.
No, I wouldn't hurt that little bunny. I mean, my daughter loved that rabbit. I wouldn't have anything to do with that.
I don't know what to make of this guy. I mean, right off the bat, I assumed he was gay. Turns out, though, that his alibi was that he was up all night for about 8 hours talking to some Felicia Fierce lady. And yet, he claims he's not in love with her.
Look, just because I talk to her a lot and I want to have sex with her all the time and I just want to be with her, that's not being in love. Come on, no.
If you can figure this guy out, you're a smarter man than I am. Then there's Ileana.
No, I didn't do it. When that was supposed to happen, I was occupied with a man. 'Cause I cannot pleasure myself, you know? I mean, that's what men are for anyway.
Now that's a likely story. But then again, what kind of psychosis is going on where you never pleasure yourself? Yeah, I gotta keep my eye on this one. Finally, we've got Maya.
That's got guilty written all over it. The homicide investigation takes hard work and plenty of experience. Luck hardly has anything to do with it. And speaking of luck, look at poor Buddy. He had 4 rabbit feet. And look where that got him. In a hole in the backyard, that's where. Who killed Buddy? Tonight on Investigation Discovery.
This is a Nailsin News Bulletin. A former TV weatherman has been arrested for allegedly making a secret sex tape and then threatening to release it. As cops warned, he could have more alleged victims. Josh Fitzpatrick? Josh Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick? Who worked at 29 News in Charlottesville, Virginia, is accused of secretly filming his accuser during a consensual sexual encounter. Gosh, he agreed to it and then you pulled this stunt. Yeah, because he was like, man, that video gave me a chubby that went. That's what he told her. Yeah. Anyway, the alleged victim reported the incident in February, telling cops the 42-year-old meteorologist had subsequently extorted and threatened them. This might not be a woman. With the release of the clip, investigators said Fitzpatrick relocated to Ohio shortly after the probe kicked off. Oh, he thought, Ohio didn't have an extradition fee? Anyway, he was nabbed there with the help of Ohio law enforcement on Tuesday. Fitzpatrick was slapped with charges of sexual extortion and unlawful creation of an image of another. Wow. I mean, this is within the context of video and photography, right? I mean, what if he just drew dirty pictures of the other person? Would he be in trouble then, too? I mean, police warned the former weatherman, he no longer in the field, who is in custody pending his extradition back to Virginia, may have more victims, and urged others to come forward. Well, once you get a search warrant of his stuff, provided he hasn't successfully destroyed it all, that if you got it on with this guy, odds are he has video of you. For whatever reason, I guess you just didn't have any money, so he didn't bother you with the blackmail. But this particular victim, man, woman, and we don't know. His former employee covered news of his arrest, but stopped short of releasing a statement. Now, come on. It's the responsible thing. Is that, hey, you just never know. What do you want from us? Yeah. Anyway, the outlet said he left his position at the TV station in early March. Perhaps because he knew the heat was on, and that was the deal. So the forecast looks to be some serious jail time. I don't know what the mandatory is. I mean, it varies from state to state, so I don't know how many years he might get for the extortion, in and of that. I don't know if he had just been caught with taking surreptitious images or videos of coworkers and whatnot and that sort of thing. I don't know what that runs. But he went the extra mile and said, if you don't want your family to see this, and interesting, I understand they protect the identity of victims in these scenarios and whatnot, but them. So, anywho, he's a bad man, and now he's gonna pay the price. Yeah, that's what the forecast says.
It's the news. And peeps and weirdos getting all creepy and weird. Slut selling butts, the fuck holes have been sold. Thugs breeding like bugs, or rather to go wingers, killers, killing it, killing it, killing it, killing it. Nailsin News. 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 Where all the money go, ain't nobody gonna know. You touch your meat.
All right, that should fix that. Um, well, I won't be able to do any super tips tonight. Can do text ones, but the voice ones I won't be able to do. I apologize. Go ahead and remove that. No, I said remove. And I might as well remove this too. Every show is a disaster. So, if I can finally get to what I intended to do, I was on Pat's show, and he was reviewing the glorious saga of Stilto. And so I thought, oh, why don't I draw characters from that as the crew of a ship from the alien world, the alien universe, you know? And I want to turn up the light a little. Um, so I was thinking, oh, well, they've had Nostromo, and they've had Maginot. So this will be the je ne sais quoi. Yes, je ne sais quoi. And I guess we'll go ahead and have Toe be the captain. You know, it's kind of like a coach. And he'll be the captain of je ne sais quoi. So we'll just draw your standard Toe image. There he is. And he took this job to be the captain of je ne sais quoi, to go and collect these specimens because uh, he was like a big fan of Dallas from the Nostromo, and he thought, hey, I can be as good as that guy. So he took the job. But of course, as we've learned from Alien Earth, it's hard to find good help for these missions. In fact, most of the crew are pretty stupid. Such was the case for Maginot. They were all losers and idiots. And so you can imagine that for Je ne sais quoi, the likelihood that they would hire someone of the caliber of Stilto, highly likely, you know, because after his failures in, trying to make it in radio or broadcasting and all that, well, what else was he going to do? So he takes this job to be the captain of the Je ne sais quoi. Yeah, that's right. Oh, wait. Yeah, that should work. Okay, well, all right. So anyway, of course, for for Je ne sais quoi, I don't even know if they even get any specimens. They can't even do that right, and it all goes to hell. Uh, because, well, look who's captain. So here he is, Captain Imholt of the Weyland-Yutani spaceship Je ne sais quoi, and sent to recover specimens. But maybe they do get some of them, but in Aaron's case, the face hugger becomes a butt hugger and that kind of thing. And it's like, oh no. And they're like, how could that happen? And it's like the face hugger kept trying to get it. So he decided, I know, I'll sit on it. And, well, so it turns out that wasn't the best thing to do. But there you go. See, that's my pitch for a spin-off series from Alien Earth. Alien Je ne sais quoi. So it'd be all about the trials and tribulations of the crew of Je ne sais quoi. Of course, it might be better that he isn't the captain, but he certainly thinks he should be. It could be something like that. I don't, it would be quite the letdown if there's a scene where, Captain Imholt or First Officer Imholt or whatever, strips down to his bra and panties while the alien is lurking in the background. I don't know if that would be all that great of a scene. So probably want to come up with some other outcome there for the climax of the show, or the ultimate battle between man and alien creature or whatever. It's like they encounter the engineers and they take one look at Captain Inholt and they realize, oh my God, what have we done? And they vow to destroy the entirety of the human race. And that explains their reaction in Prometheus. Although that would take place in the past. So I guess that doesn't work. But anyway, here's his shirt. It would have some sort of, I forget what the symbol looks like for Wayland Utani and all that, but he would have that insignia there. And, this would be sort of his official poke treat for the crew on his ID and whatnot. And let's see, where's this? Yeah, no, I gave him a little too much hair here. But, well, if he auditioned for the role, they'd probably fix that up for him in makeup. So it, look a little better than it actually does in person and stuff like that. So there we go. Captain Imholt of the spaceship Je ne sais quoi. So there you go. That's your first character. Probably the first one you meet on the first episode as they, wake up out of their hibernation chamber. And they say, oh, we're coming upon this unexplored planet and shit. This ought to be cool. But then, it breaks down. They start bitching about who gets paid what and all that kind of thing. And then it's like, man, think about it. When we get back home, everyone we ever knew will be dead and gone. And then Captain Aaron would be like, and? He's just, well, we're going to have all this money and shit. Oh, yeah. So it'll just be great. So there we have it. I don't know. Maybe do they have name tags and shit? They probably did. Something like that. So, if it required that, oh no, this parasitic species is virtually unstoppable and it's on the ship, we can't allow it to reach the Earth. So, like every decent captain, he has to go down with the ship. Well, odds are he's not about to allow that to happen, So, all right, next up, let's see who else. Well, of course, let's just say April was a part of the crew too. Look, it's a deal for a spinoff show. She might be interested in doing that. Working with Aaron again might be a problem, but we'll work around that. Maybe we could CGI some of her scenes with some other actor, and then you put in Aaron later. So I don't know, maybe she could be like the medical officer, something like that. And even, turns out there is a relationship between her and Captain Imholt. At first, anyway. But since she's like a nurse, we'll say the medical officer, who once had a law career, but it kind of faltered through certain problems and stuff. So he got into the service, and they said, "Well, you could be a medic, kind of like Joe is in Alien Earth. He doesn't really strike you as quite the GI Joe type. So ends up being a medic. Um, and here comes Nurse April, and well, she takes a liking to the guy. And so, hey, what do you know? She's a nurse. He's a doctor. Wouldn't you like to, you know? And so there you have it. She, starts to have an affair with him, and this creates tension on the ship and stuff, along with the drama of, well, there's a flesh-eating monster that bleeds acid and all that sort of thing. And oh boy, it's pretty bad. So, oh no, what's going to happen to the crew of Je ne sais quoi? Well, you'll have to tune in to find out. I mean, we kind of already know because, we've seen Alien before, but still, might be cool to see how they handle it. It pretty much ends the same way, but still. So, so she's the nurse, and she has to put the Band-Aids on the boo-boo. But when they start coming in with face huggers, boy, it's too much. She has kind of a breakdown. And really no one quite understands her. So, but don't worry, there's other crew members that are a bit more supportive, or at least say they are. And maybe there's some amount of solace there. The doctor, well, he was nice to her and everything, but he's kind of just in it for the sex. So whenever this traumatic event happens with, well, the monster, it's going to kind of shatter her, and she's feeling isolated and alone. And it's all very sad, on top of just the horror of, holy crap, it's a monster. So will this help the original couple of her and Captain Imholt to get back together? Does that rekindle the romance? Well, there probably isn't time, and because there's an alien on board and it's loose on the ship, and they're like, oh crap. So there could be other Dabbleverse people. So hell, we could throw in maybe Melton could be there. He could be like the mechanic or something. Hangs down where the engines are, stuff like that. And Captain Imholt's always like, hey guys, we're good to go, right? And whether they are or aren't, yeah, whatever. That kind of, it's not a very respectful relationship. They don't particularly respect Captain Imholt. For some reason, they just suspect he's not up to the job. Now, probably has a lot to do with the fact that everybody on the ship knows that his wife's banging the doctor. So that's going to create a problem. So it could be that. So we got that going on for Alien Je ne sais quoi. So here we go. We got this here. Mersch could be another mechanic on the ship. You know, he's sitting in there, pretty much convinced that this was a mistake from the get go, and never should have got on board. But damn it, we're here. Uh, Plus, you know, one of his cats gets freaked out about the monster because the cat's always the smartest one, figures out, holy crap, there's some monster on board, and they got to go chasing for it and that kind of thing. So you see all the possibilities for the crew of, je ne sais quoi. Yeah. Oh, so, you know, you go looking, and then they got to find the cat. Where's the kitty? And then the alien shows up. Gobble, gobble, gobble. And oh no. And, well, shit. Meanwhile, Aaron, of course, encountered the face hugger. And, of course, his solution was to sit on it. And then it just wraps itself around his ass. Well, this is, of course, is a problem, as he will be impregnated by the alien, the baby xenomorph, you know. So it's not looking good for Captain Imholt. And then the doctor's like, well, do I even want to try to, you know? And the nurse is like, well, I'm feeling kind of bad. Yeah, I know, but so you got that situation. Meanwhile, he's sitting there with this, you know, he's got to lay on his stomach the whole time, and he's barking orders from the sick bay bed, and with this face hugger wrapped around his ass. So you can imagine that scene, you know? And again, this creates problems with the command structure because, well, already the crew is like, we know your wife is banging the doctor, and we don't respect you. You look like a nerd, and you're barking orders at us, and we know how this ship runs. You don't, that kind of thing. And now he's laying on this stretcher with this alien thing up his ass. So you can see the problems that this creates, and the tension only increases, which is sad because they really need to work together if they're going to survive. So, you know, is it all the aliens' fault? Not really. You know, it's just this is perhaps the worst crew you could have sent. Even worse than Maginot. You know? So, oh no. So eventually, of course, the creature's gonna burst out. But in this case, Aaron's able to survive this because it doesn't burst out of his chest because of the positioning of now not the face hugger, the butt hugger. He's able to crap the alien out of his ass. So there's some bleeding and damage, and, you know, his wife, guilt ridden, helps stitch that up and everything. The doctor reluctantly agrees to help with that as well. But oh no, the alien is loose within the ship. And so that could be a plot point for them trying desperately to survive this mission aboard the Je ne sais quoi. So, of course, the alien creature gets attacked by the crew on occasion. They see it, and after it's, I don't know which one goes first. We're gonna have to kill off some characters. It's a monster movie, so either Mersh or Melton has to buy it, something like that. You could add some more. Oh, Karmic could be in there. Let's see, what job would he have? I don't know. Well, maybe he was like, they knew they were, this time, instead of being tricked into it, these guys knew they were going to go get the specimen, similar to Maginot. So they, Karmic signs on as, I don't know, the veterinarian or something like that. He knows his way around animals or some shit. So they figure he's the one to pay attention and figure out which specimen's worth a shit or not. He doesn't really know what the hell he's doing. It just says that way. But they're all happy to risk him. And he might actually just get the face hugger. I don't know. The first one, something like that. So, but then again, having him around, he'd be the first one that said, hey, look, the cat is loose. We're going to need you. Go in there and get it. So he does. And, well, so it's all very sad. But they barely have time to deal with that because they still got to get rid of this monster and all that. Meanwhile, they're kind of worried. They don't know if they should ask for help. There's this time around, there's a space station a couple of weeks away. But if they admit they screwed this up royally, they're probably going to lose their shares, crap like that. So they're trying to damn, how do we make up a dog ate my homework excuse and stuff like that. And they argue about what the story should be. All that kind of stuff. This is the elements of deep, intensive drama. Of course, you're facing your own mortality because you've been reduced to becoming prey, just like our ancient ancestors were when the saber-toothed tiger would hunt them down and eat them and stuff. Probably play with them first and then eat them. And here they are. They're brought back to that situation. And there's all that. Then there's just the relationships they already had are pretty shitty. And that's going to prove to be a detriment for them as well. Probably the main thing that dooms them, But, well, it's a living. And for whatever reason, they ended up on this ship. Now, for a series, instead of just a movie, you could do, to drag it out, to milk this for as much as you possibly can, provided it's successful. You can do backstories of each character, and it's like, what did you do to end up on this damn ship? That kind of thing. And that could be something. So, I don't know, the doctor was caught with narcotics or something, and then, oh shit, he lost everything. And then here came Weyland-Yutani saying, well, you know what? We could use a man with medical experience. And the pay is, in the stratosphere. In fact, it's in outer space. It's so good. And he's like, oh, cool. What is it? Well, we're going to shoot you into space, and it's going to take you like 60 to 70 years to travel to this place, and then another 60 to get back home. So everyone you know and care about will be long dead and whatnot, but man, you get that sweet paycheck. And, you've already had some serious charges and whatnot. So it's this or nothing. So he's like, well, I guess I got to sign on to this. And so that's how he gets on. Captain Imholt, of course, he was just a failure overall. So it was like, well, even he could figure out, well, I'd better just go ahead and sign up on this ship. Now, how did he become the captain? Yeah, I got to come up with a good enough reason for that. He knew somebody. Crap. Somebody felt sorry for him. Something like that. But ultimately, primarily, it goes back to what we learned from Alien Earth, is that you're not going to get the best for these crews. You might get lucky in a few, like they showed with Morrow in that episode on the Maginot, and that sort of thing. So it's like the doctor here he's a good doctor. He's good at his job and stuff, and he's not an idiot. He just had a problem, and it got the better of him, and he ends up on this ship. That sort of thing. But for Captain Imholt, well, not so much. But how did they decide, hey, he should be the one calling the shots? Well, it would have to be something of he knew somebody, or something like that. And quite possibly they've got several missions out there, and they're hoping, gee, one of them's got to strike gold, and they pretty much run out of the guys to do that. And they just tried to, impart on him, like, look, just stick to the rule book and you'll be fine. Just, don't think you're the type of guy who thinks outside of the box or any of that crap. You just let the computer do the work. Oh shit. No, Karmic shouldn't be the scientist. Karmic should be the android. Fuck. Yeah. Karmic's the android. Yeah. So there we go. That'll work. So there we go. This would be the doctor who has an affair with the nurse who's married to the captain, so on and so forth. Or at least was having a relationship with the captain. Because that's another thing. They said they're not supposed to, according to the episode about the Maginot, was, hey, you know what? You can't fraternize with one another. Of course, they all did. I mean, what are they going to do? They were going to dock their pay or whatever, but they're out in space for decades. Albeit most of that, they're frozen in their cryo tanks or whatever. But when they get out and walk around, they're like, you want to? And they're like, well, yeah. So it's going to happen. So maybe just Captain Imholt and the nurse, they had a relationship or something. And then, well, she meets the doctor, and it's just no competition. And so that's that. And this, again, creates the drama already in place before the monster even gets on board. And, all hell breaks loose, especially after the captain shits out the alien. Because, again, he ends up sitting on the face hugger instead of getting it on his face, and is able to survive the birth of the alien creature. So you pretty much keep your cast intact for a good bit there. Um, I suppose Stuttering John could be another of the crew, kind of the ship's janitor or something like that. And oh no, he's searching for the kitty and it doesn't go well. Maybe he's the one that the alien gets a hold of. And it's like, oh shit. Kevin. Um, Now maybe Kevin is like the basic manager who assembled the crew, but he's not on the ship. But they see him on the computer screen, tell him this or that, and then eventually, the alien. Now that's going to be top priority. The rest of you don't matter. You might as well be shit. But the creature, that's what we really want. So, oh no, they don't care about us. You're really shocked at that? No, I guess not. Yeah. So, all right, here we have the doctor. They call him Nick. We have Nurse April and Captain Imholt. So there we go. We've got 3 crew members. That's something. That's something. Um, so, let's see here. Our engineer crew we'll have Melton. I guess he would kind of hold the position that Yaphet Kodo had in the original, and of course has no respect whatsoever for the captain, constantly making fun of him, and even at first, little did he know the captain was aware of this because he has monitors up in the bridge of the ship and he's watching uh, I don't know, Lieutenant Melton or whatever, joking and cutting down the captain with uh, Merce. Yeah, him and Merce are hanging out in the engine room of the ship. And it's all good fun, until the fan hits the shit with the monster and all that. I don't know. The monster kind of figures out that the captain's a bit of a pussy and kind of ends up liking Merce and Melton because they're so damn funny about it, and just kind of laughs so they're able to escape while the creature's like losing breath from laughing so hard and that kind of thing. So it could go like that, I suppose. You can say, oh, some of these characters escape into deep space. What becomes of them, we may never know, that kind of thing. But to their horror, when they do encounter the xenomorph, uh, they're they're just absolutely disgusted because, as we now know, the xenomorph does take on the attributes of its host. So the alien is going to kind of look like Captain Imholt. Yeah, it's not a pretty picture, but well, in space, no one can hear you throw up, and that's just the way it is. Okay. course, since the xenomorph does take on the attributes of Kevin, I have to change the plot again, rewrite the script. I don't think it's going to appreciate the jokes and stuff that Melton and Merce tell about the captain, because they'll be laughing at the alien, his double chin, his moobs, all that type of stuff, and the alien is just going to lose it. So they may not make it, you know. So, and then they're probably going to be the only character. Well, there'll be other characters that people kind of like and stuff, and so it's going to be really hard when your beloved characters go and that kind of thing. But that's kind of the deal. It's a monster movie in space, and it's supposed to be scary and stuff. So, there's no happy endings here. All right. I guess there would be some sort of Weyland-Yutani symbol up there. It can't be the onion symbol. It doesn't work. There's like a lot of stuff about the ship. The captain's completely ignorant of it all. And so Mersh and Melton can run rings around him. He doesn't understand how it works. And it's not going to go off at that speed because of the gravitational forces. It's not going to work. Damn it. I hope they're not lying to me. What's he going to do? He can't do anything. He's pretty much at their mercy. So, that kind of thing. There you go. Guy, he's kind of looking like Peter Boyle from Outland, which could easily fit in the Alien universe, because the whole aesthetic and everything of Outland looks exactly like Alien. So maybe that's the deal. Melton's able to escape in a shuttle or whatever, makes it back and gets a gig being the corrupt boss of a mining town on an asteroid, selling drugs and stuff. Or he just runs the casinos and stuff, Hey, look, it's a great time. Everybody has fun. And that helps the workers blow off steam. Don't mess around and screw this up. And that would be the deal. As far as getting over the trauma of Jinsei Kwa, well, that won't take much because, that was stupid Captain Imholt, so he's not really going to. Yeah, it sucks, but what are you going to do? Oh, geez, I screwed up the hat here. Look at that. Holy crap. Why don't I look at the damn screen? Because you're Doug, nerd. You're Doug. Yeah, you're right. All right. Chief Engineer Melton. So then, of course, Mersh. Well, I mean, I don't know. There was a divorce or something, and he had to take this gig. And got to come up with backstories for each one of them. As to, well, shit, how'd I end up here? Well, here's the story. And all of them are like, what did I do to deserve to be on a ship with this asshole for a captain and that kind of thing. We do that there. Yes. We have the hat, which of course will bear the Wayland Yutani logo, which I don't recall at the moment. I don't know if it would be on both sides of the outer shirt, but I'm just going to guess that it is. Yeah. Here we have the hat. Now, some of this to go on the cheap could go the Ice Cube War of the Worlds method, where they just sit in their studios and talk to the captain. They even have their headphones on and everything, and they're communicating with him. And you just have, OBS put the background in, and it's this spaceship, and they're like, well, it's not going to work. We're going to need to, take a breather for a bit, and we'll have the ship ready to go, by the morning or whatever. And then Captain Imholt's like, damn it, pets are lying to me. I have no way of knowing because I'm ignorant. But I don't want to say it out loud. Well, you just did. Oh, no. Anyway, that kind of thing. And, oh, dear. Even more tension for the crew of Je ne sais quoi. And Mersh would probably be the one that's like, this is stupid. We shouldn't do this. And they're like, yeah, but we won't get the money. And he's like, there's other money out there to make. We don't need this shit. And, well, they don't listen to him. And what happens? Well, of course. But of course, you can forgive them somewhat for not taking the situation as seriously as they should in the early stages of this. Once the captain has, a butt hugger, uh, so they're all laughing and guffawing at that situation, and they think, well, whatever. And then off they go. And then next thing you know, he gives birth to it by taking a dump. Um, Now their lives are in trouble. But at the time, it was just too damn funny. So you got to understand these situations. All right. Here we go. Mersh. In. Space. Aboard the je ne sais quoi. There's all kinds of stuff that the ship wasn't designed to do. And of course, stupid Captain Imholt puts it through the ringer and all that unnecessarily because he thought it would look cool. And he's trying to win back his girlfriend. And it's not really working out, But nevertheless, does some stupid stunt trying to, I don't know, hit the retro rockets to burn up some asteroids or whatever. And then, well, they explode and smash up against the hull and do all kinds of damage. And this pisses the engine crew something fierce, but, Merce in particular gets really pissed. Because turns out he's the guy who's got to go do the spacewalk and go fix all that stuff like that, And because they do have the android for stuff like that, but it's a malfunctioning android. It's kind of like the one they had in the Romulus movie. He was like an older model, and he became sort of a pet to the main girl. That she saw him as her brother, but it turns out he was quite the heroic character. But he was obsolete and not that great. Well, a similar situation happens here for the je ne sais quoi, because this was, they threw a bunch of ships out there and just hoped something would stick to the wall. And so who knows, go for broke, whatever. This is a shitty old ship. We'll send this, crew that's worse than the Maginot, whatever. And so they send them a cheap, shitty, obsolete version of the androids. And of course, it's the Karmic design. So Karmic is the android. And, well, they just don't trust him to be capable of handling the spacewalk mission to repair the ship. So it just doesn't happen. All right. So there's some screws loose with the android here, and there's really not much they can do about it because you go with the crew you got, and so here he's not going to be like Mr. Data on Star Trek, that kind of thing. But he does have the one thing going for him is that the alien has no real interest in him. There's nothing to eat there. He's not real and all that type of stuff. But there's all these malfunctions and whatnot. So there's a lot of disturbing problems. People walk in on him and he's, dancing to disco music and stuff like that. And they're like, I don't get it. Why? I don't know. And I don't want to know. Let's just back out of here and pretend we didn't see any of it. But of course, what's been seen cannot be unseen. And, well, there you are. I suppose he could have a fascination with members of the female members of the crew. Comes to believe they're in love, stuff like that, when there's nothing there at all. All kinds of things like that. But Captain Imholt actually takes a bit of a shine to him because it kind of reminds him of a younger version of himself, even though he's an obsolete android and is actually older than Captain Imholt. But, Captain Imholt's, don't bother him with the details or facts and stuff like that. It's not how he rolls. So anyway, he has some sympathies for the poor, broken down facsimile of a man. So, some people are creeped out about it and say, hey, maybe we should shut him down or something. No, it's all right. There we go. The marginal. There we go. Ta-da. Isn't that something? Of course, he's supposed to be this artificial intelligence type thing, but it's more on the artificial part. The intelligence thing didn't quite make it. So, and he does possess superhuman strength, because he's got that android body. So it's a bit unsettling, especially when he goes off into these raging rants. Fuck you. It's like they call down and they're like, okay, Carmick, we're going to need your report on blah, blah, blah. And he's irritated because he hasn't finished it yet, or he's been distracted watching the women's shower room or something like that. And fuck you. Fuck you. And it was like, it'll be done when it's done. That kind of thing. Like, God. Man, what an asshole. All that sort of stuff. Yeah, but he's the only android we got. So I'm not entirely certain if like, oh, the programming is supposed to be that he has to protect the the alien and make damn sure it gets back to Earth. Uh, hmm. Odds are that's, you know, only going to happen by accident. So maybe he falls in love with the alien. It could be something like that. He really just something about it really speaks to him, and it could be that sort of thing. And so anybody talking bad about his beloved xenomorph, uh, well, he's just going to lose his shit. His, well, you know, milky whatever substance that is, shit in his android body. So that's a possible plot point for sweet boy android um, KX. You know, that's kind of how that would work. So, um, I did see someone in the chat mentioned Stuttering John could be the communications officer. So, all right, you know, he spends a lot of time up in the bridge or control room or whatever you want to call it. Ah, shit, let's do it like this. And and he thinks it's funny to try to do crappy prank calls to different space stations out there that they really desperately need to stay in contact with in case there's any problems and stuff. And they all know it's him, and the jokes don't work, and they're terrible, and all that type of stuff. And then, and it's odd because he ended up in this gig because he lost his last job because he was recorded making all kind of sexual innuendos about this young woman at the company, you know. And he claimed he was actually the victim. He tried suing, it went nowhere, and eventually he had to take this gig. So that's how he ended up on Spaceship Maginot. Yeah, still not. So at a pivotal point, they could possibly have called for help. There's not quite the same situation as the previous movies, so they were within reach of assistance or whatever, but nobody takes Maginot seriously because communication officer Melendez has pissed off everybody in dispatch work. And so when they really are in trouble, they just ignore it. So they're on their own, you know. But, you know, he thought it was funny. He thought the chicks would giggle, stuff like that. And, well, yeah, you know the rest. So far, so good. You know, I think this should be pitched to Disney or FX to see if they're interested in this spinoff. You know, some of these people would be more than willing to fly out to Thailand and shoot the series. Although I don't know that they'd have to go to Thailand specifically because this one would be, you know, on the ship. Unless, of course, you want to shoot some early scenes where they go to the planet, where they find the creatures, uh, step on quite a few of them, manage to find one, uh, or well, Captain Imholt sits on the face hugger, and now they've, well, there we go. We got the specimen. There we go. Communication officer Melendez. Um, once the xenomorph attacks him, last words, skull. Which, you know, baffles some of the crew. They're not sure what it means. Um, so then they do an autopsy on his skull, but they don't find anything. So precious time is wasted. And well, it's all sad, you know. There we go. There goes. Oh, wait. I gotta. There. All right. Well, there is the creature itself. So it's got this head. There's a skull, almost Skeletor-like feature. Here we'll give it maybe even some hair. Sure, why not? We're going to have a different version of the xenomorph, and it will take on some attributes from Aaron, but surprisingly will result in a creature of its own. Which, strangely enough, the android will become fascinated with and even love. You know, it's almost sweet, but of course, the creature has an agenda all its own. So, oh no, look out. Here comes, you know. I'll just forget about trying to make it look exactly like the xenomorph. So, let's see. Something like that. I don't know. All right. Whoops, 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 whoops. So this xenomorph is really pissed and mad at the crew of the Je ne sais quoi. And, well, who can blame her? Stupid Captain M. Holt had her be born out of his ass. So, not a happy camper over that. The first thing it encounters is this recording of one of the Wayland officials uh, talking about the mission, narrating it with quite a few cool jokes about the whole thing. And I mean, the guy should have been a talk show host or something. But it's only a recording, it's fancy and interactive and everything, utilizing AI, what have you. And boy, this xenomorph kind of falls in love with it, mistakens the android for being this character when she begins to realize it's not him. Oh my God, it it doesn't go well for the android. Now, of course, the android can survive despite the brutal beating that it takes from the monster, but it still hurts because the android has feelings for said monster, and it's just heartbreaking, the whole thing. So that again, other elements beyond just the horror of oh no, there's a monster in the dark and all this sort of thing, but it's all the sadness and oh damn, if only this or if only that kind of thing. It's oh my goodness, it's really really tragic. So what are you gonna do? Well, you just eat popcorn. That's what you're gonna do. There's really nothing else. And eventually, she's got to, you know, feed new alien babies, and probably has to poop out a new butt hugger because thanks to Captain Imholt's foolishness or clumsiness, however. But ironically, this works out because now that they're butt huggers, the victims of this can survive, uh, not without some wear and tear and a lot of pain and suffering, but they can survive it. When your chest explodes, yeah, you really can't. But if you push out a massive bloody turd and then you get, some help from medical officials, professionals rather, uh, you can survive it. So there's kind of a silver lining in this version of it. The crew and the mission of Jin Sequa will be remembered as the one who perhaps created a version of this that you can survive. Of course, the other xenomorphs end up rejecting these, and this creates a civil war situation with the species. So, oh man, it's the possibilities are endless, and so a lot of them they shoot their butt huggers onto the other xenomorphs, and just oh my god, it's a whole mess. And the whole universe owes it all to Captain Imholt. So it's a win for the space tow after all. You know? So, maybe that's some kind of comfort despite all the losses that will inevitably incur due to, the clumsiness of the captain's command. He really didn't know what he was doing, bullshitted his way into the job, all this type of stuff. Never should have been anywhere near this, but life's funny that way, and yet it results in a new element in the wall between man and alien. All right. Yay. Yay. The alien. So there we go. Oh boy, it's almost been 2 hours. And I'm tired. Boy, I could go on, you know. But I won't because I'm tired. So there we have the creature. But I do need to erase a lot of this one. Let's see. It should be dry enough for the most part. Gonna have to feature these in the next issue of Doodleverse Comics. The tragic voyage of spaceship Je ne sais quoi. Got, you know, and then, hey, look, I am pitching this. You know, if this should catch the eye of Hulu, FX, whatever, this is a contender for the overall Alien universe, you know, and you just the title is Alien Je ne sais quoi. It's the story of that doomed ship and what happened, you know. What the hell happened to those poor souls sent out into the void to seek the unknown? And, well, they found it. And it, you know, didn't go well. But had it gone well, there wouldn't be any show or movie. So there you go. And, of course, by a staggering coincidence, based on actual living persons who could play the parts, and considering where their lives are individually, maybe one or two here might think, nah, I'm good. But quite a few, most notably the captain, would sign up in a heartbeat and wouldn't cost much, would be desperate for the opportunity, and could play the roles, you know. All right, there. Our xenomorph, communication officer Melendez, android Karmic X, engineer, engine room officer, whatever, Mersh, engine room officer, Melton, Dr. Nick, Nurse April, and Captain M. Holt of Spaceship Je ne sais quoi. So, oh my goodness, what an exciting show, soap opera in space that would be. And good Lord, wouldn't it be something if it actually occurred? I think so, which is why I sat here illustrating the whole thing. All right, Bird64 says, push the like button. I hope you listened to Bird64. Rudy Baga, Aaron would make a great Wayland Yutani Weasel. Yeah, now that's another possibility. Yes, you know, like Paul Reiser in Aliens, you know. Yeah, that's a good point. Nodak, sweet. I made it back from jogging in time for Doug's show. You did. Nodak says, Captain M. Dolt. Yeah, that could be. Rudy Baga, if Mersh was there, his cats would sense the alien. That's true, yes. You know, just like in the original, that cat knew better, the rest didn't. Nodak, the tagline could be in space. Nobody can hear you stream. That's another point. Of course, Captain Hemholt would be more concerned with his live stream. He would not give it up. He would still be doing it from the bridge of the ship, going on when he's supposed to be paying attention to what's afoot on the ship. And highly irresponsible. Same thing with communications officer Melendez, although he would quit every now and then in frustration and go get drunk and pass out. Pella says, hey, everyone. Everybody say hi to Pell. Nodak, is the alien Tookie or Puppet Oh, shit, Puppet Kevin. Well, like Alien Earth, there could be other aliens. So, yeah, Tookie could go in there. Yeah. Could throw him in there. And Alien Kevin. Yeah. Pellel, Stuttering John is the ship's communication operator. Right. I did catch that. So, yeah, that's a good one. We'll go with that. Like on Howard answers phones and screws up calls. Yes. He screws up the calls. And so now they're even more alone in space than they ordinarily would be. Aaron's moves will be perkier since there is no gravity in space. Pellel says, Aaron is balding hardcore. Nice. Yes. Nodak, LOL, Bird. Hi, Rudy. Everybody's saying hi to each other. Nodak, I picture the final scene of the movie and or TV show is Aaron in an escape pod floating aimlessly in space. Him looking around. Kids, April, hello? Alien pops up behind him in the pod. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, he makes damn sure he's the one that escapes. And then, damn it. Pellel, Nodak, LOL, gone forever, lost in space like most of the goals. Yeah. And that's the thing. He keeps stressing, we got to reach the goal. So come on, we got to stick with the mission. Let's not abandon ship just yet. Nodak, Alien Screech. Captain M. Holt, high-pitched girly scream, cut to black. Yeah. Yes. Pellel, Milton looks like he can be Cooter Davenport in a DOH remake. And Mersh looks like Dale Gribble from KOTH, except with a beard. To me, anyway. Okay, I'm not getting that one, but thanks anyway. Pellel, the space pod Aaron escaped in is shaped like a big charcuterie fridge. And oh no, it crashes on Earth and they think it's got all these great snacks and they open it up and oh shit, it's the alien. Pellel, or whatever the thing was he bought for Mrs. Arcada home name, Kayla was her name. Bird says morning. Pellel says Kayla. Pellel says, I think we all know who this is. All in the eyes. Nodak, he malfunctions because the alien doesn't think of him as a real man. Yeah, it all falls apart when he can't successfully romance the alien, and it just shuts him down completely. It's, yeah. Pellel, fuck you, Shmuel. 2D2. Fuck you, Shmuel. 2D. Well, yeah, something like that. Pellel, Data has an evil brother lore. Now we see his first cousin, Boar. Yeah, I guess so. Pellel says, good-natured ribbing. Well, of course. Pellel, Real Karm is also AI, authentic inbreeding. Oh, well, I wouldn't push around scurrilous rumors like that. Nodak, his right arm always droops down because his micro internet working chip, his MLC arm always, mic arm always drops. Yeah. Yeah. I swear to God, in the end, in disgust, he just rips his arm off. Nodak, his mic chip is malfunctioning. Pellel, well, I get a lot of those around here too. That was the absolute funniest thing I've seen from him in a while. Him battling the mic. Yeah, Nodak, I agree. Nodak, I was disappointed nobody laughed at my mind language joke when Doug was pretending to do sign language to Carmick's German rat. Pellel, Granny had a clip. Someone edited the DuckTales clip and song and in parts added Carm's cocksucker. Yeah. Well done and funny as hell. If I find it, I'll post it to Pat's Discord. um, Pellel to Nodak says he fell asleep, missed it. Did you, Pellel says, did you notice that German rat? He does say Pat Dixon. Yeah, Pat played it on his show tonight. Pellel, or I thought I heard that. Nodak, I did. It's the best. LOL. Pellel, they can name the show series Star Trek. Nodak, gotta say, not a lot of diversity in this alien reimagining. LOL. Whoops. What do you mean? There's an alien and an android. Pellel, he looks like a roided up psycho ET. Oh, the xenomorph. There's an inspiration for it. Give it some thought. You'll figure it out. Pellel, draw him black to conform with the DEI issue. Nodak mentions if you don't, no movie will be made. Arno says, I'm back, bitches. Pellel, internet power is back. I see. Hope you fared well in that. Oh, you had a storm or something? Power and internet just got restored about 45 minutes ago. Jeez, no power drives me batshit crazy. Yeah, you start having cabin fever, you know. Nodak, huzzah, glad you are here. Arno. It was freaky and a lot of cleanup after, but nobody here got hurt. Well, that's good to know. Pellel, that's the most important thing. It is. Arno says, yeah, there was much celebration. Pellel, with the hair, it looks like April in Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, not April. The xenomorph is April's the nurse. You know, she's already. The xenomorph is a combination of this, that, and the other thing. Exactly. Pellel, Arno, never knew where you lived. You get a lot of storms like that. And Arno says, no, not the thing, it's the other one. Pellel, she's got a Saiyan tail. Yeah. Pellel gives literal meaning to the term ripping ass. Yes. Pellel term, yeah. Well, gotta get the kid ready for school. Gonna have to watch the replay. Have a good one, everyone. All right, Nodak. Have a good one. Arno, this is what they have instead of winter. Typhoon season. Well, it's a lot like hurricane season over here, which is still technically not over just yet. But I'm hoping we dodged it this year. Nodak, take care, man. Yeah, kids in school. The day's getting cooler and shorter. Summer is over. Take care, man. Have a great day, says Arno. Arno, I live in New England. Winters seem 10 months long. Super cold gray. Heat bill skyrocket. And a storm will delay the day for a bit, but we don't have it as bad as you guys. I won't complain. Arno says, yeah, I'm from Minnesota. This weather is something else. Bird64 says, night. Susan Dolan says, hello, everybody. And with that, sorry, nothing personal, Susan, but I've done over 2 hours, and that'll be the show. So there we go. My pitch for a new Alien series, Alien Je ne sais quoi, with Captain Imholt, Nurse April, Dr. Nick, Chief Engineer Officer Melton, Engineering Officer Mersch, Android Carmex, Communications Officer Stuttering John, and this lady playing the Xenomorph. Yeah. Well, you got to leave some mystery for your sci-fi horror show, you know. So there you go. Somebody needs to do this show. Started off as just a joke, but good Lord. I think there's something to this. But anyway, there we go. In summary, Alien Earth had a lot of cool things about it, but a lot of stupid, and I'm afraid the stupid outweighed the good. Maybe they'll pick it up in second season. We'll see. But was disappointed with the finale. So there we are. We're all caught up. hopefully I get enough sleep and will join Doomcock and his crew for Pop Culture Breakdown, where we will be discussing Alien and other stuff later tonight, 7 p.m. Central, for the Pop Culture Breakdown live stream show. The featured movie will be Tron, the original. Provided I'm able, I may stick around for that as well. I don't know yet because I've been having a lot of trouble getting enough sleep. So do join us for that. So I'll see you all then, and hopefully can squeeze in another live stream myself later, much later in the night. So have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk again soon. Oh, Phil S says, oh, that's Carm. I thought it was Shmuel. No, that's not. No, that's Carm. Anyway, yes. Have a good night, everybody. And as I said, we'll do it again soon. I really wish this hadn't messed up though, because I figured it out the last time I did Rumble Studio, and I was like, to crap. I almost didn't get. Of course, the camera for the drawing camera has been having problems on its own, and that was weird. That was the first time that's happened tonight, but I got it to work. But well, anyway, it's over. I tried my best. That's all I can do, and better luck next time. So again, have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching, and we'll do it again soon.
Vulture.